Today's story is, she walked away with her baby and nothing, unaware the Mafia boss had chosen her as his wife. What could make a mother walk away carrying only her baby, leaving everything else behind? And how could she possibly know that somewhere in the shadows, a Mafia boss had already made a life-changing choice about her? Welcome, and thank you for spending your time with us today. If you enjoy emotional stories about unexpected love, difficult choices, and people finding hope when life gives them nothing, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. We truly appreciate every one of you who continues to watch and support us. Tell us in the comments, could you trust someone who had secretly chosen you before you even knew what they wanted? Now, let's begin today's story. Mommy, are we homeless now? The question stopped Maya Bennett beneath the flickering light outside the apartment building. Rain whispered against the sidewalk, gathering along the shoulders of her faded brown coat. Maya tightened one arm around 4-year-old Sophie, who was half asleep against her chest, while her other hand gripped the handle of a battered suitcase. Everything they owned that still mattered was inside it. 3 dresses, 2 pairs of shoes, Sophie's yellow pajamas, a stuffed rabbit with one missing button eye, $43 folded inside Maya's wallet. Nothing else. Maya looked back at the building she had called home for nearly 3 years. The third-floor window was dark now. No, baby, she whispered. Sophie lifted her sleepy face. Then where are we going? Maya swallowed. Somewhere better. It was a promise she had absolutely no idea how to keep. 20 minutes earlier, she had been offered another choice. Stay? Accept the money. Ignore what it would cost her dignity. Maya had looked at the envelope sitting on the kitchen table, then at the man who believed desperation had finally made her cheap enough to control. She had pushed the envelope back. Then she packed. Now the cold rain soaked through her shoes as she walked toward the bus stop with Sophie in her arms. Across the street, a black sedan remained perfectly still. Maya never noticed it. Inside, Vincent Moretti did not take his eyes off her. At 38, Vincent had built a reputation that made powerful men lower their voices when saying his name. Politicians returned his calls. Businessmen reconsidered insults. Men who had once threatened the Moretti family had a habit of disappearing from conversations, and sometimes from the city. Yet the woman crossing the street had done something Vincent rarely witnessed. She had chosen nothing over surrender. Vincent watched Maya stop beneath the bus shelter. She set down the suitcase and carefully wrapped her coat around Sophie, leaving her own shoulders exposed to the rain blowing sideways beneath the glass roof. His jaw tightened. Beside him, Daniel Russo waited silently. He had worked for Vincent long enough to know that silence was safer than curiosity. But tonight, Vincent's attention unsettled even him. She refused the money? Vincent finally asked. All of it, and walked out. With the child, Vincent looked through the rain-streaked window. Maya was smiling at Sophie now. Somehow, with $43 to her name and nowhere certain to sleep, she was making the little girl laugh. Something unfamiliar moved behind Vincent's cold expression. Not pity. He despised pity. Recognition. He had spent his entire life surrounded by people who traded loyalty, affection, even family for the right price. Maya Bennett had just proven there was something she valued more than survival made comfortable. Her self-respect. The bus arrived. Maya lifted Sophie, dragged the suitcase aboard, and disappeared behind fogged glass. Daniel glanced toward his boss. Should I have someone bring them back? Vincent's eyes hardened. No, the bus pulled away. For several seconds, he watched its red lights dissolve into the rain. Then Vincent Moretti leaned back into the darkness. Find out where she's going. By sunrise, Maya Bennett had learned that starting over did not look brave. It looked like exhaustion. The room she found above a 24-hour laundromat smelled faintly of detergent and old plaster. The radiator clicked without producing much heat. The curtains were faded, and the narrow bed sagged in the middle. But the door locked. For Maya, that was enough. Look, Mommy. Sophie stood beside the single window, pressing both palms against the glass. We can see the bakery. Across the street, warm yellow lights spilled from a tiny storefront where someone was arranging bread behind a fogged window. Maya smiled despite the ache behind her eyes. We sure can. She spent 12 of her remaining dollars on breakfast, then began searching for work. By afternoon, rejection had become a rhythm. No openings. Experience required. We'll call you. Then Maya entered Rosewood Diner. The owner, Helen Carter, was a gray-haired woman with tired eyes who watched Sophie coloring quietly in a corner booth while Maya filled out an application. "You have childcare?" Maya hesitated. "I'll figure it out." Helen studied her for a long moment. Most people saw Maya's soft face, generous curves, inexpensive clothes, and assumed softness meant weakness. Helen seemed to see something else. "You ever wait tables?" 2 years. "Can you start tomorrow?" Maya nearly cried. Instead, she straightened her shoulders. "Yes, ma'am." 3 miles away, Vincent Moretti stood before a wall of windows overlooking the city. His world could not have been more different. Marble floors, original paintings, men in tailored suits waiting for permission to speak. Daniel Russo placed a thin folder on Vincent's desk. Maya Bennett, 29. No criminal record. No significant debt beyond ordinary bills. Her daughter, Sophie, is 4. Vincent did not touch the folder. "Where are they?" "Room above a laundromat on Franklin." Vincent's expression darkened. Daniel continued carefully. "She found work this afternoon." That made Vincent look up. "Already. Rosewood Diner." Something almost resembling approval passed through his eyes. "Arrange something better." Daniel paused. "You told me not to interfere." Vincent's stare turned cold. Most men would have apologized immediately. Daniel had known him too long. "You want to help her," he said. "But you don't want her knowing." Vincent turned toward the city. Below him, traffic moved like veins of light through wet streets. His mansion had 14 bedrooms. He slept in one. His dining table seated 24. He ate alone. Everything Vincent Moretti owned was enormous, expensive, and strangely empty. He had once believed that was what power looked like. Then he had watched Maya give her coat to a sleeping child while rain soaked through her own clothes. "No," Vincent said finally. "Don't arrange anything." Daniel's eyebrows lifted. "Watch them. Nothing more." "And if someone approaches her?" Vincent's face became unreadable. "Then you tell me." That evening, Maya returned from buying groceries with Sophie skipping beside her. They climbed the narrow staircase together, laughing when Sophie nearly dropped a bag of apples. Neither noticed the man sitting inside a parked car across the street. He raised his phone. "They're home," he reported. Vincent stood alone in his silent mansion, one hand resting against the cold window. "Good." He ended the call. Behind him waited a table set for one. Vincent looked at it for several seconds. Then, for reasons he could not explain, he imagined a little girl's laughter filling the empty room. The thought should have irritated him. Instead, the silence afterward did. The first time Maya Bennett met Vincent Moretti face to face, he had blood on his hand. It happened on a Thursday night, 11 days after she started working at Rosewood Diner. The dinner rush had finally faded. Sophie sat in the last booth near the kitchen, drawing purple stars while Helen counted receipts behind the register. Maya was wiping down a table when the bell above the door chimed. 3 men entered. The first 2 wore dark suits and the watchful expressions of men who never truly relaxed. The third made Maya stop. He was tall, broad-shouldered, white, with dark hair touched faintly with silver at the temples. His charcoal overcoat looked expensive enough to pay Maya's rent for months. But it wasn't his clothing that changed the room. It was him. Conversation softened. Helen's hands stopped moving. Even the 2 construction workers near the window suddenly became interested in their coffee. The stranger noticed everything. Then his eyes found Maya. For one unsettling second, she had the strange feeling that he already knew her. "Table for 3? She asked. 2, he replied. When Maya reached for the coffee pot, Vincent noticed the faint tremor of exhaustion in her hand. He almost told Daniel to take the tray from her, then stopped himself. "Would you rather I move this?" he asked instead, shifting his cup closer to the edge. Maya glanced at him, mildly surprised by the question. "That helps." Their eyes held for a beat longer than necessary before she poured. One of his men immediately stepped away. Maya blinked. "Right, 2. Vincent Moretti almost smiled. Almost. She led them to a booth without realizing the most feared man in the city's criminal underworld had spent 11 nights receiving reports confirming that she and Sophie were safe. To Maya, he was simply another intimidating customer. She preferred it that way. Halfway through their meal, Sophie dropped a crayon. It rolled beneath Vincent's booth. Before Maya could stop her, the little girl crawled after it. "Sophie." Vincent looked down. 2 enormous brown eyes stared back at him. "You're sitting on my purple." Daniel Russo nearly choked on his coffee. No one spoke to Vincent Moretti like that. Vincent slowly shifted his shoe. The crayon appeared. Sophie retrieved it triumphantly. Thank you. You're welcome. She studied him. You look sad. Sophie, Maya whispered, horrified. Vincent went completely still. Then Sophie returned to her drawings as though she hadn't just said something men twice her size would never dare say. Maya hurried over. I'm so sorry. No apology necessary. His voice was quieter now. Then the diner door opened again. A young delivery driver stumbled inside, carrying a cardboard box. He looked pale. Mrs. Carter? The box slipped. Glass shattered. The young man collapsed. Maya moved before anyone else. She dropped beside him, turning him carefully onto his side. Call an ambulance. Helen grabbed the phone. The driver's breathing came shallow and fast. Maya removed her cardigan, folded it beneath his head, and kept speaking calmly. Stay with me. What's your name? Eli. Okay, Eli. Look at me. You're not alone. Vincent watched from across the room. He knew Eli. The boy's older brother worked in one of Moretti's warehouses. Maya didn't know that. She didn't know helping him could earn gratitude from Vincent Moretti. She didn't know anyone important was watching. She simply held a frightened stranger's hand until the paramedics arrived. When they carried Eli outside, Maya returned to the broken glass and began cleaning it herself. Vincent approached. You do that often? She glanced up. Do what? Help people who can't give you anything. Maya frowned. Isn't that when help matters most? The answer struck somewhere Vincent had spent years teaching himself not to feel. From the booth, Sophie called. Mommy, look. Maya turned immediately. Her entire face softened. Vincent watched her praise a crooked picture of 3 purple stars. Something shifted inside him. He had spent his life surrounded by loyalty purchased with money, fear, or blood. Maya Bennett had none of those currencies. And somehow, she possessed the one thing his world could never manufacture. Kindness without a price. Maya first realized someone was watching them when the man outside the laundromat appeared for the 3rd night in a row. He never came inside. He simply stood beneath the broken street lamp across the road, smoking cigarettes and staring toward the upstairs windows. Maya's instincts tightened. Sophie, sweetheart, stay away from the window. Why? Just listen to Mommy. She locked the door, checked it twice, then pushed a chair beneath the handle. Fear was familiar to Maya, but surrender was not. The next morning, she told Helen she needed extra shifts. If we're moving somewhere safer, I need the deposit. Helen studied her tired face. You're already working 6 days. Then 7 won't kill me. Across the city, Daniel Russo placed a photograph on Vincent Moretti's desk. This man has been watching her building. Vincent's expression changed instantly. Who? Caleb Ward. Small-time collector. Works occasionally for the Bolano crew. Vincent slowly removed his cufflinks. Why is Bolano interested in Maya Bennett? We don't know. Find out. That evening, Maya finished her shift after 10. Sophie had fallen. Asleep in the break room, curled around her stuffed rabbit. Maya wrapped her in a coat and carried her toward home. Halfway down Franklin Street, footsteps sounded behind her. Maya walked faster. The footsteps followed. Her heart began pounding. She shifted Sophie higher against her shoulder and reached into her purse for the small can of pepper spray Helen had given her. At the next corner, the footsteps suddenly stopped. Maya turned. Nobody. Only an empty sidewalk and a black sedan disappearing through the intersection. She didn't see Daniel's men dragging Caleb Ward into an alley 1 block behind her. And she certainly didn't see Vincent waiting there. Caleb hit the brick wall hard. I didn't touch her. Vincent stepped from the shadows. He didn't raise his voice. That made him more frightening. Why were you watching her? I was paid. By whom? Caleb hesitated. Vincent moved closer. The answer came quickly. Later that night, Maya sat beside Sophie in their tiny room, counting money into envelopes marked rent, food, and new home. $20 here. 15 there. Slowly. Honestly. Hers. Meanwhile, Vincent stood inside his mansion listening to Daniel. Bolano's people noticed you visiting Rosewood. Vincent's jaw hardened. So this is because of me. It appears they're trying to identify her significance. Vincent looked toward the dark windows. He had wanted Maya protected. Instead, his interest had painted a target on her back. Double the surveillance. Daniel hesitated. She'll notice eventually. Then make sure she doesn't. 3 days later, Maya found Sophie sitting at the diner counter beside Vincent. The little girl had arranged sugar packets into a crooked house. This is your room. Sophie announced, pointing to one blue packet. Vincent stared at it. And where is yours? Here, next to Mommy. She placed two pink packets together. Then she added his blue one beside them. Maya stopped walking. Vincent looked up. Their eyes met. Something painfully gentle crossed his face before disappearing. Sophie, Maya said softly, don't bother Mr. Moretti. He isn't bothered. Vincent's answer came too quickly. Sophie grinned. You can live in our sugar house. For a man who owned estates, penthouses, warehouses, and entire blocks of the city, the invitation should have meant nothing. Instead, Vincent stared at three cheap sugar packets touching one another. A home. Not an empire. Not a dynasty. A home. And suddenly he understood what terrified him most. He no longer wanted merely to keep Maya Bennett safe. He wanted to belong beside her. The first thing Maya noticed was that the lock had changed. She stood outside her apartment with Sophie beside her, turning the key twice before staring at the polished new deadbolt. Their landlord didn't repair anything without being asked 3 times. Mommy, it's okay, sweetheart. But it wasn't. 2 days earlier, the broken hallway light had mysteriously been replaced. Yesterday, Helen had announced that Rosewood Diner suddenly had private security after dark. That morning, Maya's landlord had informed her that the man who had been watching the building would never return. Too many coincidences had begun behaving like a pattern, and Maya knew exactly when that pattern had started. Vincent Moretti. The next evening, he entered Rosewood shortly before closing. Maya didn't bring him coffee. She placed the new deadbolt key on his table. Vincent looked at it. What is this? You tell me. His silence answered first. Maya folded her arms. Was it you? Maya, the hallway light? Security here? That man disappearing? Vincent's expression hardened at the last question. He was watching you. So you knew? Yes. A chill traveled through her. For how long? Long enough. Maya stared at him. You've been watching us. I've been protecting you. No. Her voice remained quiet, but something inside it made Daniel, seated several tables away, look up. You've been making decisions about my life without asking me. Vincent rose. He towered over her, a man accustomed to ending arguments simply by standing. Maya didn't move. You and Sophie were in danger. Then you should have told me. You would have been frightened. I was frightened. Her eyes glistened, but she refused to look away. I was frightened when I had $43. I was frightened when Sophie asked if we were homeless. I was frightened walking home at night. But those were my problems to face. Vincent's jaw tightened. And if facing them gets you killed? Then tell me the truth and let me choose what to do with it. Something shifted in his face. People obeyed Vincent because disobedience carried consequences. Maya was demanding something almost nobody demanded from him. Respect. I can keep you safe, he said. I never asked you to save me. The words landed harder than any threat. Vincent's voice dropped. You think I should stand aside while someone targets you? I think you should stop confusing protection with permission. Silence filled the diner. Maya's anger softened, but her resolve didn't. I know men like you think fixing a problem means you own the solution. Maybe that's how your world works. She touched the deadbolt key. But Sophie is watching everything I do. I need her to grow up knowing kindness doesn't create a debt. Vincent stared at her. For once, he had no answer. A sleepy voice came from behind them. Mr. Vincent? Sophie emerged from the kitchen, carrying her rabbit. She looked between the adults. Are you mad at Mommy? Vincent crouched until they were eye level. No, is Mommy mad at you? His gaze briefly found Maya. Yes. Sophie considered this seriously. Did you say sorry? Vincent Moretti, feared by half the city, went completely still. Maya almost laughed despite herself. Almost. Vincent caught the change in her face, and for one unexpected second the tension between them softened. Maya hated that she noticed how different he looked when he was trying not to smile. Vincent seemed equally startled by the warmth in her expression. Then Sophie yawned, breaking the moment, and Vincent stood again. I'll remove the men you can see, he said. That isn't what I asked. I know. There it was. The flaw Maya had finally uncovered. Vincent cared, perhaps more than she had realized. But somewhere along the way, he had learned that caring for someone meant controlling every danger around them. Maya picked up her purse. If you want to know me, Vincent, stop managing my life. She took Sophie's hand and walked away. Vincent didn't stop her. That frightened him more than her anger. Because for the first time in years, Vincent Moretti had found something his power could not guarantee. A woman who could leave him. 3 days passed before Vincent returned to Rosewood Diner. Maya hated that she noticed. She hated noticing the empty booth near the window. Hated wondering whether he had finally listened to her or simply decided she was no longer worth the trouble. Most of all, she hated the small disappointment buried beneath her relief. She even caught herself setting a black coffee near his usual booth before remembering he had not come in. Irritated with herself, she carried it back to the counter. Apparently, somewhere between arguments and guarded conversations, she had learned exactly how Vincent took his coffee. On Friday afternoon, Helen asked Maya to deliver lunch to the Moretti Foundation downtown. Maya almost refused. But refusing paid work because of Vincent felt too much like allowing him to control her life again. So she went. The foundation occupied the lower floors of a stone building far less intimidating than Vincent's corporate headquarters. Maya entered carrying 2 catering bags while Sophie held her hand. They had barely reached reception when an elderly woman approached. Her elegant face brightened. "You must be Maya." Maya stopped. "I'm sorry." The woman's smile vanished. Behind her, Daniel Russo went pale. "Mrs. Moretti. Oh, Vincent showed me your photograph weeks ago." Maya's stomach tightened. The woman extended her hand. "I'm Eleanor, Vincent's aunt." Maya shook it automatically. Eleanor looked towards Sophie with immediate warmth. "And this must be the little girl he told us about." "Us." The word struck harder than it should have. "What exactly did Vincent tell you?" Daniel stepped forward. "Maya, perhaps this isn't." Eleanor answered first. "That he'd made his decision." Maya went still. "What decision?" The elevator doors opened behind them. Vincent emerged. One look at Maya's face told him everything. "Eleanor." His aunt finally understood. "Oh." Maya slowly turned toward Vincent. "What decision?" "Maya, not here." "No. Here." Employees suddenly discovered urgent reasons to disappear. Sophie tightened her fingers around Maya's hand. Vincent's voice lowered. "I intended to tell you." "Tell me what?" Eleanor retreated with Daniel, taking Sophie gently toward the reception desk after Maya gave a reluctant nod. Now there was nowhere for Vincent to hide. He met Maya's eyes. "I told my family I intended to marry you." The world seemed to lose sound. Maya actually laughed once, softly, because the alternative was crying. "You what?" "I chose you." Her expression changed. Not wonder. Not happiness. Pain. "You chose me." "Yes." "Like a house." Vincent frowned. "That's not what I meant." "A business." "No, a territory." "Maya, because those are things you choose without asking whether they choose you back." His silence condemned him. Maya's eyes filled. "When?" Vincent hesitated. "When did you decide this?" "Before our argument." She stepped backward. Before she had trusted him. Before she had even understood why he kept appearing. All those quiet interventions suddenly felt different. "You weren't protecting me because you cared about what I wanted. I cared more than you understand. You were preparing a place for me in your life." "Yes." Without asking whether I wanted to live there. Vincent reached for her. Maya stepped away. His hand stopped in empty air. That hurt more than he expected. "I would have given you everything." Her tears finally fell. "That is your problem, Vincent." His face tightened. "You think everything means money, security, a house, guards." She pressed a trembling hand against her chest. "But I walked away with nothing because nothing was better than belonging to someone who thought my desperation gave him the right to decide for me." Vincent looked as though she had struck him. Maya wiped her face. "I thought you were different." "I am." "Then prove it by hearing me." She collected Sophie. Vincent followed them only as far as the entrance. Outside, Maya stopped beneath the gray afternoon sky. For one terrible second, she wanted him to call her back. He didn't. She walked away. Again. But this time Vincent understood something he had failed to understand the first time. The greatest danger to losing Maya had never been poverty. It had never been Bolano. It was him. Vincent knew something was wrong when Daniel stopped speaking in the middle of a sentence. The photograph had arrived on his phone. Maya leaving Rosewood. Sophie beside her. And across the street, reflected faintly in a store window, a man Vincent recognized immediately. Marco Bolano. For 3 seconds, Vincent Moretti did not move. Then the entire room changed. "Find them." Daniel was already reaching for his phone. Vincent grabbed his coat. "Now." Across town, Maya knew nothing about Bolano. She only knew Sophie wanted hot chocolate. "Extra marshmallows?" 5. 5. 6. Maya laughed despite herself. They entered a small cafe near the bus station. For the first time in days, Maya wasn't thinking about Vincent. Then she noticed the man outside. He wasn't looking at her. That frightened her more. Maya took Sophie's hand. We're leaving through the back. Why? Game time, baby. Remember our quiet game? Sophie nodded immediately. Maya had invented it during their hardest months. No questions, stay close, follow mommy. They slipped toward the rear corridor. The back door opened before Maya reached it. Another man stood there. Maya Bennett. Her blood turned cold. She pulled Sophie behind her. No, the man's smile widened. Mr. Bolano would like a conversation. I wouldn't. She slammed the door into him. He cursed. Maya ran. She carried Sophie through the kitchen, knocking over a tray as shouting erupted behind them. A cook pointed toward a service exit. Go. They burst into an alley. A black SUV turned the corner. Maya froze. The rear door opened. Get in. Daniel. She recognized him. Every instinct screamed against it. Then a gunshot cracked somewhere behind her. Maya covered Sophie's head and ran. Minutes later, Vincent climbed into the moving SUV. His eyes found Maya first, then Sophie. Only after confirming they were unharmed did he breathe. Maya stared at him. This is your world. It wasn't a question. Vincent didn't lie. Yes. And now it's following my daughter. Shame cut deeper than accusation. Yes. Sophie trembled against Maya. Vincent looked away. Daniel spoke from the front. Bolano wants the Eastern docks. He's using them as leverage. Vincent's expression became lethal. Those docks were worth millions. More importantly, they anchored one of the Moretti family's most dangerous operations. Years of blood had secured them. Maya understood enough from Daniel's words. No, Vincent looked at her. Don't give them anything because of us. I'm not paying Bolano for threatening you. His voice was calm. I'm removing the reason men like him can use you against me. He called his attorney first, then 2 captains. Shut down our operations at the Eastern docks. Move the legitimate contracts to the holding company and terminate everything else. No retaliation. No fight for the territory. Daniel turned sharply. Vincent, walking away will cost millions. Then it costs millions. Bolano will call it weakness. Let him. He wanted a war over the docks. I'm refusing to give him one. Vincent made another call, this time arranging a neutral meeting through people Bolano could not afford to alienate. The message was simple. The Morettis were leaving the contested territory, not surrendering Maya in exchange for it. And any further approach toward her or Sophie would destroy the truce and bring every legitimate legal and financial pressure Vincent could command. Silence filled the vehicle. Maya stared at him. This was the man who had tried to control every variable because power had always solved his problems. Now he was deliberately dismantling part of the world that had made her a target, without asking for anything in return. For the first time, Maya saw something in him she had never seen before. Fear. Not fear for himself. Fear of what loving him could cost them. Sophie slowly reached across the space between the seats and touched his hand. Vincent looked down at her tiny fingers. Are you scared? She whispered. His throat tightened. Yes. Maya's heart broke a little at his answer. Because Vincent Moretti had finally discovered the limit of power. He could command an empire. He could surrender millions. He could make dangerous men retreat. But he could not order Maya to trust him again. Maya expected Vincent to take them to his mansion. Instead, the SUV stopped outside a small hotel near the river. No marble gates. No armed men lining the entrance. No Moretti name anywhere. Vincent stepped out first, checked the street, then opened Maya's door. Daniel booked a room for tonight. Maya looked at him carefully. And tomorrow? Whatever you decide. The answer unsettled her more than an order would have. Sophie was asleep against Maya's shoulder, exhausted by fear. Vincent reached instinctively to help carry her, then stopped. He waited. Maya noticed. After a moment, she nodded. The fact that he had waited for permission unsettled her in a way his power never had. For the first time, Maya felt a flicker of safety beside him that had nothing to do with guards, money, or influence. It came from the simple fact that he had asked. Vincent gently lifted Sophie into his arms. The feared Mafia boss carried the little girl through the lobby as though she were made of glass. Upstairs, he placed her on the bed and carefully tucked the blanket beneath her chin. Sophie stirred. Mr. Vincent? I'm here. Are the bad people gone? His face tightened. Yes. You promise? Vincent hesitated. Then he gave the only promise he could honestly make. I promise I'm doing everything I can to make sure they stay away. Sophie accepted that and closed her eyes. Maya stood near the window. The docks. Vincent turned. You really shut everything down? Yes. How much were they worth? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Vincent was silent. Millions. Maya exhaled. And your family? Furious. Your organization? Some will leave. Because of me. No, his answer was immediate. Because of me. Maya looked at him. Vincent removed something from his coat and placed an envelope on the table. Her body stiffened. I don't want your money. I know. Then what is that? The hotel receipt. 3 nights are covered because the danger that displaced you came from my world. Maya's expression remained guarded. Vincent slid a second page beside it. And these are 4 apartments near Sophie's preschool and Rosewood. Daniel checked only the buildings and the landlords. No leases. No deposits. No decisions made for you. Maya looked down at the list. You expect me to choose one? I expect you to choose whatever you want, including none of them. He paused. I'm not choosing where you live. I'm making sure what happened tonight doesn't take away the choices you fought to keep. That silenced her. Vincent looked toward Sophie. I spent my life believing protection meant removing every possibility of harm. His voice was quieter than Maya had ever heard it. My father protected our family that way. Doors locked. Enemies destroyed. Decisions made before anyone could question him. He gave a bitter smile. I became very good at it. And very bad at asking. Yes. The admission came without defense. Maya's eyes burned. What happens now? Vincent looked at her for a long time. Then he reached into his pocket. For one heartbeat, Maya thought he might produce a ring. Instead, he placed a simple business card beside the lease. My private number. I already have your number. I know. Something almost warm touched his expression. This time, I'm waiting for you to use it. He walked toward the door. Maya's chest tightened. Vincent. He stopped. You told your family I would be your wife. Yes. Do you still want that? His back remained toward her for several seconds. Then he turned. More than anything I've ever wanted. Maya could barely breathe. But wanting you doesn't make you mine. He looked at Sophie, then back at Maya. You don't owe me your life because I protected it. There was no command in his voice now. No expectation. Only grief and something gentler than possession. Choice. Vincent opened the door. I won't follow you anymore, Maya. And then the man who had once believed love meant never letting go did the hardest thing his power had never taught him. He left. Maya stood in the silence, staring at the closed door. For the first time since meeting Vincent Moretti, there was nothing preventing her from walking away. And for the first time, she wasn't sure she wanted to. 6 months later, Maya Bennett stood outside the Rosewood Diner, holding something she had never possessed the night she walked away. A choice. The apartment was hers now. Not Vincent's. Not anyone else's. After 3 nights at the hotel, Maya inspected several places herself and eventually found a modest 2-bedroom apartment 3 streets from Sophie's preschool. She worked mornings at Rosewood and spent evenings taking bookkeeping classes online. There was money in her savings account. Not much, but every dollar belonged to her. More importantly, when Sophie asked where home was, Maya finally had an answer. Yet one absence remained. Vincent had kept his promise. He hadn't followed her. He hadn't sent gifts. He hadn't manufactured accidental meetings. For 6 months, Maya's phone had remained silent. Until tonight, when she finally picked it up herself. Vincent answered on the second ring. Maya, 1 word. But she heard everything inside it. Are you busy? For you? He stopped himself. Maya smiled. Vincent, no, I'm not busy. An hour later, Maya arrived at his mansion with Sophie holding her hand. Vincent opened the door himself. Sophie screamed his name. She ran. Vincent barely had time to crouch before she crashed into him. He closed his eyes as his arms wrapped around her. Maya saw the feared Mafia boss disappear. For one moment, he was simply a lonely man holding a child who had missed him. You took forever, Sophie complained. Vincent looked toward Maya. I was waiting to be invited. Maya's throat tightened. Later, Sophie fell asleep on the enormous sofa after insisting on showing Vincent 6 months of drawings. Maya found him in the kitchen making coffee. You really changed things, she said. Vincent understood what she meant. After abandoning the Eastern Docks operation, he had continued separating himself from the most violent parts of the Moretti organization. Some men abandoned him. Others resisted. Vincent let them. For the first time, He was building something he didn't need people to fear. I had reasons, he said. Was I one? You were the first. Maya stepped closer, but not the only one. No, that answer mattered. She didn't want to be the woman who magically repaired a dangerous man. She wanted Vincent to choose what kind of man he became, just as she had chosen what kind of woman she would remain. 6 months ago, Maya said, you told everyone I would become your wife. Vincent's expression tightened. I was wrong. You didn't want me? I wanted you too much. He faced her fully. I was wrong to believe wanting you gave me the right to decide your future. Maya's eyes filled. Vincent continued quietly. If you leave tonight, no one follows you. And if I stay? Something vulnerable entered his face. I'll ask. Maya smiled through her tears. Then ask. Vincent froze. This man had negotiated deals worth hundreds of millions without trembling. Now his hands did. He lowered himself onto one knee. There was no audience, no family council, no empire watching. Only Maya. Vincent took out a simple ring. Maya Bennett, I can't promise you a life without difficulty. I can't erase who I've been, but I can promise that I will never again confuse loving you with owning you. His voice broke slightly. Will you choose me? Maya covered her mouth. Then Sophie suddenly appeared in the doorway, clutching her rabbit. Mommy, say yes. Maya laughed through her tears. Vincent laughed too. It was perhaps the most ordinary sound that mansion had ever heard, and the most beautiful. Maya looked at him. Yes. 1 year later, there were still 3 sugar packets preserved inside a little glass frame in Vincent's study. 2 pink, 1 blue. Sophie called it their first house. Maya called it a reminder. She had once walked into the rain believing she possessed nothing except her child and her dignity. But dignity had never been nothing. It had been the foundation on which she rebuilt everything. And Vincent finally understood that family wasn't someone you possessed, rescued, or chose on their behalf. Family was someone you kept choosing, and who remained free to choose you back.